Alrighty guys, brand new Earthbounds confirmed. Crazier news. It's a fusion, and on top of that we got a Synchro Earthbound. These are all the boss monsters. Anyways, they're coming out in Animation Chronicle 2023, which is set to release at least in the OCG for June. So not too long away, but let's go and check out these effects and see if they're any good. Because Earthbounds, they're kind of like a fan favorite that was never really good, let's be honest. I think the bird saw some play in the higher levels, but everyone really liked the whale card, so hopefully they give some support for the whale guy. Anyways, starting right off, we have Earthbound Prisoner Groundkeeper. This is a level 1 Dark Fiend Tuner effect monster, 300/300. It says you can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. The first part says if this card is normal or special summon, you can special summon one level 5 or lower Earthbound monster from your deck or graveyard, except for Earthbound Prisoner Groundkeeper or Earthbound Spirit. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except Fusion and Synchro monsters, which is part of the archetype, so I guess it's not really that much of a downside. And then we have the second effect, which is Earthbound monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects while this card is in the field zone, except Earthbound Spirit. Okay, so it just protects the card as well. So next up we have Earthbound Prisoner Stone Sweeper. So we have a level 5 Dark Fiend effect monster, 1600 attack, 1600 defense points, and it says you can only special summon this card with the first effect of this card's name once per turn, and you can only use the second effect of this card's name once per turn. So the first part is if there is a card in the field zone, you can special summon this card from your hand. Second part is you can discard this card to add one level 3 or lower Fiend Tuner from your deck to your hand. Also, you can special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except for Fusion and Synchro monsters. Surprisingly, being able to add a Fiend Tuner, this actually should work with Red Dragon Archfiend stuff since it's Synchros anyways. So this is actually cool support for extra Synchro decks. That's awesome. Next up, we have Earthbound Prisoner Line Walker, which is a level 3 Dark Fiend Tuner effect. 800 attack, 1100 defense points, and it says you can only use the first and second effects of this card's name each for once per turn. The first part is if this card is normal or special summon, you get to add one Earthbound Prison or Harmonic Synchro Fusion from your deck or graveyard to your hand. The second part says if you control a level 6 or higher Earthbound monster, except for Earthbound Spirit, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target one opponent's effect monster, special summon from the extra deck, shuffle it into the deck. Then your opponent can special summon one monster with the same name from their extra deck. I'm not really sure what the point of this. They shuffle one and they get to summon one from the same name. Maybe if it's an Exceed, they would just fall off and lose the material. I'm not sure how effective this effect is. Maybe it has actually some good uses because it'll make sense later. But because it's not a quick effect, that could be very interesting. I don't know. Very weird effect at the end of the day. Next up, though, this is the boss monsters. We have a level 8 Dark Fiend Fusion effect monster called the Earthbound Servant Yugioh Kraken. So this is the boss monster, 2800 attack, 1200 defense points. Its materials are 2 Earthbound monsters, except for Earthbound Spirit. It says you can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. The first part is if it's special summoned, you can add a field spell from your deck or graveyard to your hand. That's already pretty good. If you guys don't know the Earthbounds, they basically require a field spell. I think Mausoleum of the Emperor might have been one of the cards some people were messing around with back when I remember some people were playing at locals years ago. Second part is if a monster is special summoned from your opponent's extra deck, you can destroy as many of their special summoned monsters this turn as possible. If you do, inflict 800 damage to them for each monster destroyed by the effect. I guess if you have the first card, this card's like immune to being destroyed via card effects, and as long as this effect cannot be negated, which I don't know if there's some sort of field spell. I think there's Mound of the Bound Creators, I think for 10 or higher, but it is another field spell nonetheless, so maybe you can combo it with it, and if you increase the levels, that's like going really far into like too many conditional cards. But nonetheless, yeah, if your opponent special summons something, they're more likely going to summon something that can negate and destroy this card. But nonetheless, I mean, it's possible to pop a bunch of stuff. I mean, it's monster, so if that means if your opponent goes pen for 5 cards, they pop all 5 cards, and they're going to be taking massive amounts of damage because it's 800 for each monster destroyed by this effect. And both the effects are each once per turn. Okay, if this effect you could keep on doing it, that'd be a little bit OP, but it actually makes them quite good. So it's an okay effect. It's basically like one disruption because they're just going to go for a follow-up play, right? Next up, though, we have Earthbound Servant Yugioh Gracia, or the dub, which would be Earthbound Servant Yugioh Gracia. It's another. This one is a level 10, so it works with Mound of the Bound Creator. So it's a level 10 Dark Fiend Fusion effect monster, 3000 attack, 18 defense. Its materials are 1 Earthbound Fusion monster and an Earthbound Synchro monster. Not going to be the easiest thing to pull off, but it's got to have a good effect, right? It says it must be fusion summon, and you can only use the second effect of this card's name once per turn. So the first part is at the start of the damage step. If this card battles a monster, you can change that monster's attack and defense to 0. Second part is if an opponent's monster or monsters is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can destroy all cards they control. Okay. Third part is if this face-up card leaves the field by your opponent, you can special summon one Earthbound monster from your deck or extra deck, except for Earthbound Spirit. Okay, being able to summon, I believe the bird one has some effect where like it just pops the entire board, right? That one might be the one that you go for, if I remember correctly. Next up, though, we have Earthbound Servant Yugioh Gremlin. This is a level 6 Dark Fiend Synchro effect monster, 2,000 attack, 1,000 defense points. Its materials are 1 Dark Tuner plus 1 plus non-tuner monsters, and it says you can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. The first part is during the main phase, as a quick effect, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Your opponent chooses one of these effects for you to apply. So you can destroy that monster or gain life points equal to that monster's attack. Or during the battle phase, as a quick effect, you can fusion summon one Earthbound Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from your hand, field, and or graveyard. Okay, so this is actually a really good effect because the other one requires you to, go for a Earthbound Fusion monster and a Synchro. So more likely you just use this as a stepping stone and then you go into maybe something else. But that could be pretty good. For me, handful, you just do it from the graveyard more than likely though. Next up though, we have another boss. Dang, they got so many boss monsters, it's insane. Earthbound Servant Yugioh Griffin, which is a level 8 Dark Fiend Synchro effect monster, 2,500 attack, 1,500 defense points, and its materials are 1 Dark Tuner plus 1 plus non-tuner monsters. And it says you can only use your first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. The first part, as a quick effect, you can special summon one Earthbound monster from your graveyard in defense position. Oh, the whale! That's the good one. Except for Earthbound Servant Yugioh Griffin or Earthbound Spirit. You can also special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest, or you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except for fusion and synchro monsters. It says the second part is if this card is destroyed by your opponent, you can destroy one card in the field, then inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each Earthbound monster with different names you control and your graveyard, except for Earthbound Spirit. Okay, maybe in OCG with grass, you can do massive amounts of damage, but a lot of the stuff is very mediocre. It's kind of like more like the same stuff. When it leaves the field, you can do some small burn damage, or like you pop and do burn damage, but because it's on a quick effect, it doesn't like negate and destroy. I think a lot of people will be kind of considering this archetype underwhelming, but we're not done with the support yet. Maybe some of the support will make it very, very powerful. All right, so now we have a field spell form called the Earthbound Prison, which is a field spell card that says when this card is activated, you get to target one effect monster your opponent controls. This card gains this effect. Negate that monster's effects. Okay. That's only when it's activated, but it's still like it's useful for a field spell because I'm guessing it gives you another plus, right? The second part is during your main phase, you get to normal summon one Earthbound monster in addition to your normal summon / set, except for Earthbound Spirit. You can only gain this effect once per turn. Okay effect. Third part of the effect is if this card is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and you have an Earthbound monster on your field and in your graveyard, you have your opponent's life points. And then if you negate the effects of all face-up cards they currently control until the end of this turn. I mean, that's a pretty dang good effect, because that's the biggest problem with Earthbounds. You destroy the field spell, and if I remember correctly, a lot of them, if there's no field spell, they just like instantly pop, right? But has to be by your opponent's card effect. Now, there are ways, I think, to make your opponent's effect become something else. And if there is a way to do that, I mean, halving your opponent's life points and negating basically all of their plays for the rest of the turn is not bad, even though this is technically an Earthbound card. Someone may figure out a way to force your opponent to, like, pop this card, and then you get to do something. It's basically like skipping their turn. Like, it's a pretty good effect, and you halve their life points. But next up, we have the otherworldly Harmonic Synchro Diffusion, or the Harmonic Synchro Fusion. Alright, so it's a normal spell card that says you can only activate one card with this card's name per turn. You can't special summon a monster from the extra deck the turn you activate this card, except for fusion and synchro monsters. First part of the effect is to send 2 face-up monsters you control to the graveyard. A tuner and a non-tuner. Special summon 1 fusion monster and 1 synchro monster from your extra deck that can be fusion and synchro summon using only sent monsters in the graveyard as material. Wait, so you get double? That's potentially like broken with certain like archetypes. I'm not sure, like there's going to be so many weird targets. You're going to have to like look them up. We could probably dedicate a whole video towards targets for this card. I think this card has some potential for sure, and some like really crazy combos for sure. And this is, oh, I think this is the card I was talking about, Red the Bird, the Asalapiscu. This one I believe is one of the best ones that people actually did see some competitive play at one point. Forgot what archetype used it, but it was like, it was legitimately seeing competitive play. Then we have Line Walker, we have Greater Line Walker, then 100 Ice Dragon, and the EarthBound Geoglyph as reprints confirmed over here. But there's going to be a lot more cards coming out in Animation Chronicle, so if this is your first time here and you do want to see more in the future, make sure you subbed with the bell notification on and drop a like on your way out, and I'll see you on the next video. And let me know what you think of the new EarthBounds. I think they're kind of weak though.